Welcome to Bloomberg Law. I'm Lee Pacquiao. Illegal downloading of copyrighted material cost the U.S. economy an estimated $16 billion in lost revenue. That's according to movie and music companies. To address this problem, they have agreed with internet service providers to a new approach to crack down on online copyright infringers. Joining me now to discuss the new enforcement plan is Wendy Seltzer. She is a fellow with Princeton University's Center for Information Technology Policy. Welcome. Thanks so much for coming in.
Good to be with you.
Last month, content providers met with various ISPs, AT&T, Verizon, and Comcast, Time Warner, to announce this new plan to curb digital piracy. What's in this plan?
Well, it's essentially a plan by the ISPs and the big entertainment industries to crack down on what users can do with their internet connections. ISPs have agreed to send a series of warnings, popularly known as 6 strikes, to their users, and at the end to degrade their internet connections or cut them off if they've been accused of infringing copyright.
The term warning jumped out at me. Do they get 6 identical warnings, or are they different every time?
Oh, they get a series.
Right.
First they get
Different
the educational warnings that remind them what copyright is and direct them to perhaps some resources on educating themselves about copyright law. Then they get some acknowledgement warnings where they're asked to come back and click to agree or let their service providers know that they've seen this. And then they get the so-called mitigation measures. All of this is very Orwellian terminology. The mitigation measures might be slowing your internet speed so it's just barely better than dial-up.
Right.
Or limiting you to a subset of sites. So you've purchased high-speed internet access, and suddenly because your ISP is getting some warnings, you're told you can't access what you've paid for anymore.
So I guess let's use a video game analogy. What happens when you make it to the 6th and final level?
Then you're dealing with a creeping slow internet connection.
Really?
Maybe you can.
they actually affect your service.
Yes, they're told to drop their customers down to the lowest tier above dial-up that they offer.
One notion behind this plan seems to come along the lines that internet users, consumers, they need to be educated. Do you agree with that assertion?
I'd agree that a lot of people probably don't know what the copyright law is. But I don't think they need to be educated, and I don't think they need to be educated by a coalition of the entertainment industry and internet service providers, many of whom are now teaming with the entertainment industry or even sort of under co-ownership, because people do a lot more with their internet connections than just exchange copyrighted material. They create.
Right.
They're copyright owners too.
Right. So the net effect of this enforcement regime is a shutoff from ISP access. Is that correct? And if it is, what prevents the consumer from simply moving to a new ISP? I mean, they'll just go to another business outlet, right?
Well, I think this is a boon to the independent ISPs who aren't members of this coalition, the speakeasies and other providers. Of course, there are very few of them available to most consumers, and that's part of the reason that this is so troubling. There really isn't a lot of competition in our ISP market. You might have access to one cable provider, and if you're lucky, a DSL provider, maybe some slower speed satellite.
This seems like such a departure from the lawsuits of days of yore, where content providers would simply go out and file a lawsuit against a copyright infringer. What happened to that whole initiative? We used to hear stories about grandmothers being sued for hundreds of thousands of dollars for downloading nursery rhymes over Napster.
I think that the entertainment companies, while they were making money off those lawsuits, they found it wasn't working to stop file sharing, and it wasn't endearing them to their fans. They're trying to sell products to these customers on the one hand and suing them on the other. This is a way to deflect some of the attention. Now it's your ISP who's cutting you off. And I don't think that that's right for the end user.
It seems that there's a difficulty in terms of keeping up with the way technology works. Copyright infringement used to work on a model under which infringers would engage in peer-to-peer networks to illegally acquire material. Now they use streaming services or one-click services. Is this regime adaptable to the point where it's going to be able to account for whatever comes next?
At the moment, I think not. I think it's mostly warnings to subscribers about particular acts of alleged infringement. A lot of the language seems geared toward peer-to-peer. So you're right that the industry and the entertainment industry seems perpetually a few years behind end users, and they also seem behind innovation. I don't think they've picked up on all of the different ways that they could be making money using new technology, because, of course, the internet is giving them new ways to distribute their products too. And study after study shows that the people who engage in file sharing and unauthorized access to music and entertainment content also pay more money for access to the authorized version. So if there are more authorized streaming sites, more authorized purchase sites, all of those are going to attract customers, and they're going to attract paying customers.
We were talking before, you had a really interesting and brilliant observation that the line between content providers and service providers is blurring. Could you explain why and how that's coming to be now?
Sure. I think it's industry conglomeration. Comcast, NBC, Universal is just the latest example of that. So Comcast used to offer straight-up carriage, and NBC Universal offered the content. As the two of them merge, they have incentives to steer people toward the NBC Universal content and away from the user-generated content, away from all of the other things that are competing for customers' attention.
Right, and this warning system really tends to blur the line between those two camps. What, if any, are the ramifications of ISPs kind of bridging that gap, engaging in this system?
I think it's a disturbing blurring of the line between content and carriage. That carriage should be sort of anything goes, anyone can put their own content over it, a neutral layer, like the telephone lines, where nobody's listening in to tell me what sorts of phone calls I can make and with whom I can carry on a conversation. And that sort of neutrality offers real possibilities for end users to find new things to do, to start blogging, to start up in these micro-blogging services like Twitter, to join social networks, to generate their own sorts of material, as well as to use the connection for downloading commercial videos, streaming commercial videos, watching YouTube and watching the amateur video content there. But it's sort of a wealth of possibility, and programs like this that cause the internet service providers to sort of watch their users' connections, to steer them toward particular uses, threaten a lot of that.
Do you think we're going to see further action from Congress on this issue?
I think we should. I think we should be watching this program carefully, and particularly watching its impacts on expression that's completely outside of the realm of copyright infringement. The internet is a medium for free expression in the social, political spheres. Just the other day, when President Obama was talking to people about the debt crisis, he told them to tweet their Congress people.
Right.
So we're not just
I've seen anything like that.
Sure. So we're not just using the internet to watch entertainment. We're using it to hold political discussions. And if ISPs and entertainment industry can censor that connection, it can have ramifications well beyond the entertainment context.
Wendy Seltzer, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
That's Wendy Seltzer. She is a fellow at Princeton University's Center for Information Technology Policy. If you'd like to learn more about the issue we just discussed, go check out both Bloomberg Law's Intellectual Property Law Report and Technology Law Report. They're available on BloombergLaw.com and also on the Bloomberg Terminal. I'm Lee Packia. Thanks for watching.